Hey, welcome to the Steve Davis Show. We got two special guests today. On my left, we got Sam Olney, a former player for Western New Mexico and also coach of Western New Mexico. On my right, we have Tom Drangmeister, the vice president of Proview Networks, but also a coach at.
I was also a player and a coach at Western New Mexico too.
And here we're going to celebrate the induction of your brother and your ex-coach Dick Drangmeister for the RMAC 2018 coach,
which is a great honor. Yeah.
Yeah, it was, and a well-deserved honor. He needed to be there.
Well, I tell you, we got, why don't we just kind of talk about how great he was, okay? You got some, stuff about his coaching career, so.
Yeah, now the stuff you read, I mean, they haven't included all of it, so I'll tell you, he started out coaching, and I was on his first team when I was in the 7th grade, and he was a junior in high school. He started coaching our 8th grade basketball team. So I played on the 7th and 8th grade team, and that's what we had, like a 63-12 record in those 2 years, and that's how he started. And he was still in high school, his junior and senior year. And then of course after that he went into the service and served our country. He came back out on the GI Bill and went to Western, and his freshman year he broke his leg in about 3 different spots, and that was the end of his career. So then he became like a student assistant for Coach Smith at Western, his sophomore, junior, and senior years. And then as a graduate, he still was there, and that's when I played. So he coached me both in the 7th and 8th grade and my senior year in college. So that was quite a span. So I've known him a long time, year and senior years. And that's when I played. So he coached me, and he coached the freshmen, and they were like 12-3. And then he went to Alamogordo. He was there for 5 years, but he was the assistant coach for 2. And then he coached the varsity 3 years, and you can see on the board his record was 57-21 at Alamogordo, and he took 3rd in state his last year there in 1969. And from there he went to Western, and he had his first coaching career in college. He got that right after the All-Star game. He coached the All-Star game, which the South won, with guys like LeVard Coleman and Harry Truman Ward from Hobbs, and he had a great team. But they won, like, it was a real high-scoring game. It was like 103-98. So he was normally a slow guy. He usually liked to take control. That wasn't his normal coaching. He just let them play, boy. And when you have the players, you can do that. I mean, ask John Wooden. And then he, of course, at Western, his first time there, he was 226-19. And throughout those, he went to the national tournament twice, and I believe he was 5-time Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference champions. And then from there, his last 2 years at Western, he was director of admissions. So there's a lapse there in his coaching career in 83 and 84, and then in 85, the 84-85 year, he went to Pueblo, and it was the University of Southern Colorado at Pueblo then. I'm not sure exactly what they call him now. And there he had a 50-40 record, and he also went to the Nationals with Southern Colorado, and they had never been before. And there's 1 year missing there from after when he left Southern Colorado. He worked at M&W Sporting Goods, and I was his boss for once. For a year. And he was honest.
So that's why he got back into coaching, huh?
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. I told him he was a salesman now, and we had ladies in the office, and he had to clean up his language, and he says, well, I'm going to go somewhere else. No, that wasn't the truth. He was actually there trying to sell them stuff, and their basketball coaching thing was open, and they offered him the job, and so he took it. And then he didn't take him to nationals, but he did win the RMAC his second year there, and he wound up with the 45-36 record. And you got to remember at Puebla, at Southern Colorado, and at Adams State, he was taking over for coaches that weren't having much success at the time. So what he did there was unbelievable. And then, of course, his last coaching stint is when he went back to Western, and he went both as the coach and the AD. And but he only coached the first 3 years, and that's when his health problems started. That's when he had his prostate removed, and then he had some heart problems, and so they told him you can only do one of the two. So he gave up the coaching and stayed as the AD, and that was his coaching career. Except, I believe it was 1 or 2 years in Farmington when he was living in Farmington after his retirement, and Mar Sanders was the head coach there. Which Mar Sanders and my brother and myself, we were all at college at the same time, and Marv had been Dick's assistant at a couple places. At Alamogordo and all that, so Marv asked Dick if he'd be his assistant, and my brother said, yeah, but I'm just going to coach the defense. I'm not going to coach the offense. And Marv said, good, I'll coach the offense, you coach the defense. So we give him 20 minutes of practice. My brother says, you can't coach defense in 20 minutes a day. And so, but he did that, and he enjoyed that. And he was also like a guidance counselor at the high school or something, because he didn't have nothing to do. And that was the end of his coaching career, and pretty much that's when he passed away. He passed away in Farmington.
Well, Sam, I mean, what a career. Great career at Western, but I mean, you got some great things to say about Dick. I mean,
Yeah, well, as far as I'm concerned, everything as far as my basketball career and coaching career, I owe everything to him, because if it was not for him and Western New Mexico University, I would have never gotten into the field that I got into, and teaching and coaching, because, I came out of a little school, Magdalena High School, and went off to college because they recruited me. And, I was back in the day to where, if you didn't go to college, you could just go to work. And, of course, in Magdalena, if you're going to go to work, you're going to go punch cows. That's what you're going to do, go cowboy somewhere. And so anyway, and my dad was a stickler for work, and we were building houses, log homes, and our house and stuff. And there was just too much work there involved. And this basketball thing, that looked like a whole lot easier deal. So anyway, I took off, and I didn't go to Western right off the bat.
Until you met Dick.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, when I did meet in the drag, and we all called him drag.
Yeah.
I mean, yes, he was Dick Drangmeister, but everybody knows the term drag, and that's what we all called him. But anyway, what I found out is when I got to Western, he was pretty much the same thing as my dad. He was a stickler for. He was a perfectionist when it come to basketball, and you get into practice. My dad was, if you messed up, you knew about it. And drag was the same way. He pushed you. You didn't like it at times, or most of the time you didn't like it. But it was one of those deals where after it was all over with, you realized that, this guy he pushed the right buttons. He made me a better player, made me a better person. He took care of me. For example, I'll just say it right now. I was at Western for 7 years. I didn't want to leave. That's the best job, best time in my whole life was going to school at Western New Mexico University. I was there. Drag took care of me. I never paid. I worked for it, but I never had to pay for college. How can you go wrong with something like that? And then when I did get my degree, I really didn't want to leave, but I was married. My wife said, you got to go. And Drag finally told me, he said, Sam, you got to go get a job. He said, you can't just stay in college the rest of your life. I said, why not? He said, well, first off, he said, I can't pay you anything to help me anymore. He said, you got to go find a job. You got a wife, so you need to get out of here. So I finally left Western, but he was one of those guys that he stayed on you and made you do it, and right up until he passed away, we stayed in contact. My son Royce, who most people know, played for UNM for the Lobos and stuff, and had a great career there. Drag, when my son was born, that week we were living in Roswell. I had my first job was at Goddard High School, but we're living in Roswell, me and the wife, and that week when he was born, Drag shows up that week and puts comes into the house, just knocks on the door, just walks on in, goes to the crib, puts a brand new Wilson basketball right in there next to Royce. And so, that's the kind of guy he was. He showed up for everything, and all the rest of the players say the same thing. Tom knows that.
Yeah, he told me that Royce actually signed that contract to go to Western, but he never went.
No. Well,
So he was recruiting when he was just born.
Oh yeah. We didn't know whether he was going to play basketball or tiddlywinks. We
He
didn't know.
was a good athlete. He was a great baseball player too.
Who, Drag?
No, Royce.
Oh, Royce. Yeah. Well, people don't realize that. Yeah, here at UNM, he went all day was the coach, and he had to go out in the fall
he did
and
play
make
there.
the team. He went out and made the team, but Bliss would never let him play.
let him
He said,
play,
you know,
yeah.
you're on a basketball scholarship, son. You're not playing baseball. But Royce never got to practice baseball enough. He was probably a better baseball player than he was basketball.
Well, he'd been a good baseball player because he was
Yeah,
pretty good basketball.
he had no fear of the
player.
ball. He was one of them guys that, you know, if he needed to hit, he'd just step in front of the ball and get hit and get on base.
Yeah, he gets the baseball more from his mother side of the family than his
Oh,
father's.
without a doubt. Although my dad did go a little while before he dropped out of school. My dad pitched at Albuquerque High. That's where my dad went to high school.
Yeah, and I didn't know him that long because of course, your wife's father, I played college baseball with.
Yeah.
Java, we go back a long way, so I know it's on both sides of the family. Well,
yeah,
that's why Royce was such a
There's a
great
lot of
athlete.
connections here.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're going to go to the Dream Style Top 10 Plays of the Week, and we're going to come back and talk more about drag and about Western New Mexico and the RMAC and some stories that y'all have to talk about
we got some.
over those years.
I'm in.
Campillo Terrazas in a run with it. Terrazas fakes the pass, finishes on the right hand.
Clock. D-Hill is going to run all the way into the paint over Marlin.
Oh, what a shot.
Oh, what a strong take inside.
Here's the handoff to Madrid underneath. What are they going to call? A block, so count it.
This is where Zeller's so tough right here when he takes it to the hole.
Zeller all the way in the left hand. There you go. Cleveland in a win for Volcano. Reyes, it's a tough drive, and he finished. At the board, he's going to run out with it. Quickly a 2-on-2. Quintana, yes! A circus shot from Tyler Quintana. Valencia, he changed his mind last moment. Domina Lovato's going to go on the left hand. He doesn't change his mind and beats the buzzer. Here's some time. Chavez beats the buzzer, goes high window, and he gets it.
Back to him.
Here's Phillips. Oh, and there's some room for Manzano. Manzano's going to go high off the window, and he finishes.
There he was.
Now it is to Anthony Chavez. Chavez for three, and the win. Yes! He got it! Anthony Chavez beats the buzzer! Unbelievable.
Car Crafters, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Are you sure we're supposed to be doing this?
Don't worry, I've watched him do it 1,000 times. Come on, what's the worst that can happen?
No! Bad dog!
Hi, welcome to Car Crafters. What happened? Don't worry, we'll make it like it never happened.
Car Crafters, it's like it never happened.
When I train for American Ninja Warrior, I schedule regular workouts to stay in shape. To keep my car in Ninja Tough shape, I head to a Napa Auto Care Center for regular maintenance and genuine Napa Auto parts. Like brakes and batteries. I trust my Napa Auto Care Center for quality parts and quality service. And with the 24-month, 24,000-mile nationwide warranty, I drive away with peace of mind every time. Visit AutoCareNM.com to find a location near you.
Hey, welcome back to Steve Davis Show. We got Sam Olney on my left, and we got Tom Drangmeister on the right, and we're celebrating the induction of Dick Drangmeister, Drag, just to keep it more professional, Drag, into RMAC, and we got some stories we got to talk about, and we better get going. So
Yeah.
I'm going to start off with you. Something that Well, before I start, let me just say how I fit into this whole thing, and is I was playing basketball for Clovis, New Mexico. Okay, and I made the North-South All-Star game, and I'll let Tom kind of elaborate on the story a little bit too. But it was after the game, I got to I got to know him, and over the next 10 years or so, he would always check on me, and I was kind of like, it was a strange. He was always very polite to me. Always asked me how I was doing, kept in touch with me, and but it was actually they met my mom at Circle K before that game, and then
it was in the parking lot
park
at the Johnson Gym, because that's where they had the All-Star game then. And of course they pulled up. There was a car next to us, and me and my brother pulled up. We got out, and it was a lady, and my he's the talker of the family because I'm pretty quiet. And he asked the lady, so, hi, are you here, somebody playing? Do you know someone playing? She says, yeah, my son's playing. And so he asked her, well, who's your son? And she said, Steve Davis. And he says, well, I'm going to quit talking to you because, we really wanted him to come to Western, but we know he's already committed to UNM. But he's my type of player. He said he's the kind I love. He wants to do all the dirty work. He never complains. He gets underneath, and he does the stuff that's not always in the scorebook, but that's just what my brother loves. So that's how I met Steve's mother before I actually met him.
Well, and you know what? That's talking about stories, but Drag, he was that way with all the players. We had lots of kids on that Western team. If you go back and look at rosters, Drag would go find players from around the state. I mean, I'm just talking a few. We had George Perea from Bernalillo, Joe Mondragon, little All-American Bernalillo, played for Henry Sanchez and stuff. But he would go around and find players. And I know why he was talking to you, because I guarantee you he wanted you to go play at Western. But then as soon as he realized you're probably going to be a Lobo, then he'll back off. But he would always talk to families. My dad would come to practice, stop by every now and then when he was headed south doing something, and stop by practice and watch us and stuff. And then he would come by the house. He would take families. We'd go on road trips, going east. If we was going through Alamogordo, we'd stop at Gary Chapman's house, and his mom and dad, they'd feed the team. Going north, I remember one time, because Harold Clopton from Highlands High School was on the team one time, and Powdrells. Well, you've heard of the Powdrells in the barbecue places. Well, one time the Powdrells fed the team, and I mean, we ate way too much. I think we were playing Highlands the next day, but I can't remember.
They set you up.
Oh man! Oh, you talk about a feast. I mean, it was wonderful. But he knew all the people around. He knew the families, not just players. He knew the whole family, and I think that's why everybody liked him as well as they did. But he could go take guys like me. I mean, Pete Schock from Cliff went to Western. Lawrence Johnson from Alamogordo. These are all on my team and stuff. He played for Drag at Western. Guys that, we're not highly recruited people, but we went there. We won conference championships, and stuff, and we were on winning teams all the time. But he would go take and find kids. Robert Perea from Deming, Danny Lujan from Deming, a couple guys from El Paso, Carlos Palacios from El Paso, some of these guys. And then he would go, Johnny Joe Marufa from Tularosa, who was, by the way, I think, as long as I was there, he was one of the only guys that ever, because Drag would have tryouts every year, and everybody thinks, well, I can play at Little Old Western. Johnny Marufa was the only kid in the 7 years that I was there that ever made the team in a tryout situation. He didn't get a scholarship. He would try out because our gym was full every afternoon, 3:30, whenever classes were.
And I know
we were in the gym playing, so you had to come and make it.
At the beginning too, he would use Joe Mondragon. If some guy thought he was a good guard, he said, "Okay, go play that little guy over there one-on-one. If you beat him, I'll give you a scholarship." I don't think, well, like Sam saying, nobody ever beat Joe one-on-one.
No, you couldn't. No, he was too quick, too fast, and Joe kind of wore down. But he'd go find James Bagwell. I don't know if people in New Mexico might not remember, but he was a player at Animas, led the state in scoring, averaged about 30-some points a game. And that was when I was coaching with him. He sent me down. He said,
actually, that was in my era. So that was I played with him in the North-South All-Star game.
Yeah, and James, anyway.
He had some range.
Well, yeah, and Drag sent me down there, says, here, you're a country boy, you're a cowboy. He said, run down there and go tell that kid we're going to give him a full ride. And so I went down there. They were playing in the old gym, not their new one, the little tiny cracker box. And I walk in the door. He's standing on the out-of-bounds line. This is before the three-point line.
Yeah.
You know, if he'd had the three-point line, oh, my goodness. But he's standing back there on the out-of-bounds line shooting bombs, and I forget who they're playing. They were just killing somebody, but you couldn't stop him, 6'5" kid that he could shoot. He could shoot. But Drag would go find those guys and then put them all together, and make championship teams out of them. And it wasn't easy to play for him. I mean, Tom can attest to that.
I'm thinking Johnny Portillo is a big one,
Johnny Portillo.
You know what? Cruces won the state championship 2 years in a row, and they had this Adam Beadle and Ruben Arvizo, and they were the big.
That hits home with me because those guys I played.
Johnny Portillo was the most valuable player on their team 2 years in a row. At the banquet, he got the most valuable player award.
Well, you can remember that. I can remember that game because Johnny Portillo in that game against Hobbs. Remember?
Yes.
Well, Hobbs is pressed. You can't beat it. Well, Johnny Portillo beat the press by himself.
I think it's the first time I've ever
give it to him and get out of his way.
Tasker get up and say, "Slow down, boys, slow down."
Calm down. This Portillo
Cruces was going. I think that was like 100 and.
Oh man, it was a great game. I remember that. But he'd take all of those guys. And we'd go on road trips, and we'd always have our stops where Drag would see families. We'd stop and talk and visit with people and everything else. And we'd go to high school gyms and practice on the road trips and stuff. And we'll talk about practice. But I mean, he had all these things. But the only thing is, when you played for Drag, practice, is
where you won the game.
Where you won the game. Our practices were brutal. I mean, there was no. When you walked into practice, there was no clowning around, no messing around. You got after the program, and he wasn't standing on the sidelines with his arms folded. No, none of that stuff. He was in it, And I tried to help him coach one time, and tried to say something. He told me, I'll just be honest with you. He told me, shut up. There's a few other expletives that went in there. He told me, shut up. You just listen and learn. I said, fine, coach. That's what I did. And I listened and learned. But, I mean, in practice, though, he was teaching kids and everything else. And he knew his stuff. He would go to other people and get information. I sat right here in Albuquerque, and it was the old Hilton Inn, where the Crown Plaza is at now, down there in that bar one night. I don't know if people may not remember, but his name was Boyd, Bob Boyd. He was the head coach for USC at the time. Right. Okay, we sat right there. The guy sitting next to me, his name happened to be Larry Brown. This is back before Larry Brown became
Larry Brown.
Larry Brown. We're sitting there, we're drinking beer. Bob Boyd was in town, and Drag went to talk to him because he had invented what was called the passing game. And I've still got the paperwork at home. All my coaching years, that's all I ran was that same. I've still got the papers and the letters and the numbering system, and it's really a simple offense. But we sat there that night, and he was telling us how to teach the passing game, and that's what Drag went to. Drag went to 5 out. You hear guys, all of this stuff goes right back to that one guy that invented this stuff, and then we all started doing it, okay? And Drag put his own little spin to it because Drag was a disciplined coach.
Yeah, we numbered it too.
Yes.
I mean,
1 through 5.
Nobody, 1 through 5, because you
had rules.
You had rules. You could do 1 of 5 things when you were in the court. Like if you're standing there and the guy doesn't pass you the ball, then you go to the hole, or you go set a screen away, or there's 5 things you could do, and we numbered them because what we did. Like when we wanted to hold the ball and get the last shot or take time off the clock or get it down to the next minute, which we've talked about a lot, Steve. My brother would always say, we got a double-digit lead. When we have a double-digit lead and we get under 10 minutes in the game, we're going to take a minute off the clock. And when I was helping him, there was no shot clock, but the shot clock didn't hurt him a bit because I think it made the other teams mad because it first started out with 45 seconds, and Dick wouldn't even worry about shooting until 40 seconds, and the other team would get anxious because they wanted the ball back. Yeah.
Well, and you remember when he used to spread people out.
Yeah.
Drag was famous for the four corners. I used to do it all the time too, but he'd spread people out. Remember when he had Harold Ware and French Fry and those guys on that team, and they were an awesome team. They just, for
Ware
4 or 5 years in a row, won it all.
Yeah.
Well, they would spread you out, and then all of a sudden you think they're just working for nothing but layups, okay, and dunks. Well, then all of a sudden they take a bomb. But the guys were good enough, they would make it. And you're going,
And there was
what
also
are they
a
doing?
rule that, we're going to have 6 passes before any shot can
Oh,
be
yeah.
taken. And so after that, then they felt comfortable. But that was him, and a lot of people didn't like it when he slowed it up. But like I always did when I never had any center, so running the 5 out was made for me. Because my center would be 5'11" at Gadsden or something like that. And,
Right.
and so I would always run 5 out. And at the end of the game, I just run 10. Which 10 we numbered as you go to the hole. That's your only option. So you're split, so you have your
run all
point,
the other rules
your
until you
2
get that
wings, and
one-
you're 2
one rule.
deep. Yeah, and the guy with the ball, if he passes it, he goes to the hole, and then they fill. And the next guy comes up. If he doesn't get it, he goes, and that's all you do. You pass it, and you go to the hole, or you don't get it, and you go to the hole.
The greatest thing about his mind in basketball, with the offense that he had, anybody could score. Now, all the best scorers ended up being the leading scorers, but it was kind of an equal opportunity offense. If you stood around and watched the game, you weren't going to get any good out of it. Plus, if you did that with drag, you'd be sitting. But anyway, but on offense, you had to be moving, running the rules and stuff, and it enabled you as a player to go out and get something. And if you didn't do it, then it wasn't the coach's fault. A lot of guys, well, the coach won't give me the ball. No, in this offense, if you were moving and getting open, he would yell if you didn't get the ball, no matter how great a player you were. So it worked out good, and it worked good for me when I was coaching high school ball.
And we probably talked more offense than drag. You guys, I call him Dick because he's my brother. And in my family, everybody was drag. I went to Grants,
Well, we call you
and
Drag.
nobody knew my first name in Grants. Nobody knew my first name, and they didn't know Dick's first name either because everybody called him drag.
Right.
And even my
And
sister.
then sometimes they would call you Dick.
Yeah, and then I guess we looked at. I thought I was much handsomer than him, but they thought we were, and they didn't see us all the time.
We'll talk
so,
about that during a break here.
Yeah, we'll do that.
We can't talk about that on air. So.
But defense, there weren't many rules. I mean, there was rules, but it was the same rule. There was no exceptions. You never switched, never. And you never went below a switch or in between. You always went over the top.
Over the top.
And
Over the
whoever
top.
was setting a screen, that guy had to stop the guy until the guy got over the top.
Right.
And you don't see that a whole lot anymore.
no,
they
no.
all switch. They run a weave outside. I can't believe.
In practice, that was our toughest part of practice. And
Oh.
most of practice was defensive practice. And if you didn't, he would always jump on me and call me, you country, you guys play nothing but stand around and zone and do all this other stuff. And no, you're going to have to learn how to play man and stuff. And if you couldn't play man defense, you weren't going to play.
Could play.
And you had to learn to cover people. You had to learn to help and stuff. And the film that he showed us was Texas Western for Haskins when they won the Nationals.
Yeah.
Well, Haskins came out Coca-Cola with that film. I still Drag would
remember
show us
that deep in your head,
that same 8mm film every year. With,
I've seen that too.
Yeah, you have.
I've seen that.
It's that Coca-Cola. It's Westerns. It's Westerns defense. Texas Westerns.
Yeah, and he, of course, we played Texas Western. I know my last year in college when I was a senior, we played Texas Western, and that was Don Haskins' first year at Texas Western. And it's not like the movie says they weren't the only, they were the only team to start 5 black guys in the championship game. But, I think Western had the black guys before Texas Western or New Mexico State. Because Presley Askew, the old coach from State, come to our banquet and said, I really have to hand you guys, you're integrated, you're bringing some black players in. And he said, that's what the game needs. And we did that. We had 2 on my team. They were both from Gary, Indiana, Royal Wyatt and Sidney Gunn. And of course, my brother was a graduate assistant that year. And my job was to get, one of them was too nice of a guy, and that was my job in practice, was to make him a little tougher than he really was. And I'd have to tell him, Royal, and then we'd room on the road and tell him, Royal, I'm doing this because that's what Coach wants me to do. I said, I really love you, buddy, but in practice, we're going till the whistle blows, and I don't care if we're in the women's locker room. I'm still blocking you out.
Yeah.
So that's what, that's what it's all about, that stuff, defense.
Well, we're going to come back and we're going to talk more about Dick Drangmeister, or Drag, and in Western New Mexico and RMAC, and a lot to talk about.
Get into the game with Garden Swartz Team Sales. They have everything you need, from screen printing, embroidery, and digital printing services, high school letterman jackets, and all high school and club uniforms, and individual and team apparel with the most reliable brands like Speedline, Rollins, and Wilson. And don't forget to check out the latest F7 Shut helmet. It's all at Garden Swartz Team Sales. Give them a call, 505-884-1234. Garden Swartz Team Sales.
The Barley Room, proud sponsor of Proview Networks for over 9 years, is pleased to introduce Black Iron Catering. From weddings and family reunions to birthdays and office parties, Black Iron Catering is perfect for any event. Contact Jamie at 505-459-8259 and book your event today. Black Iron Catering. Let us bring our kitchen to you.
Turbo Threads is a proud sponsor of Proview Networks.
Almost 30 years of experience means fast service, great prices, and a wide selection of apparel from t-shirts to performance sport shirts, even jackets and hats. They feature low minimums and no setup charges on most orders. Turbo Threads is located at 1503 Golf Course Road in Rio Rancho, or find them on Facebook, online at turbothreads.com, or call 999-1234 for Turbo Threads.
Well, I'm going to the frontier, walk up to the cashier, order up a root beer and a number one. Cover it with green stuff, one scoop is not enough. Find a booth is real tough, back by the Duke. Meet my family, meet my friends in the quirkiest restaurant I have ever been. All of Albuquerque's favorite spot, it's the Frontier Restaurant.
The Frontier Restaurant is a proud supporter of Proview Sports Network. Don't sacrifice quality and flavor when you're in a hurry. Golden Pride offers ribs, fried chicken, green and red chili breakfast burritos, and Frontier Cinnabons. 4 great locations, or visit us online at goldenpride@abq.com. Golden Pride Barbecue Chicken and Ribs, proud supporter of Proview Sports Network.
Hey, welcome back to the Steve Davis Show. We got Sam Olney on my left and Tom Drangmeister on my right, and we're talking about it. I know you got me already confused on that, but in 1997 he was Hall of Fame for Western New Mexico, and I think we have a picture of his drag court. There it is, right there on the left side.
Yep, on the left. And the plaque there on the right, that's when he got the Distinguished Service Award from the New Mexico Coaches Association. And he basically got that because when they first started their awards banquet, my brother did about the first 10 or 12, and then he moved out of state so he couldn't do the rest, but he was the MC for that. He did a great job. I mean, everybody loved it and all that. And of course, he did anything for any of the coaches or schools in the state. So it was a nice award. And the thing is, they put me in with my brother, and I was one of the other participants that got the same award but I got mine for different reasons.
Yeah.
For not doing anything, just being a brother.
Well, it was great that they named the court after Drag. That was awful nice. I think there's a bench also out in front that has his name.
Which I took it up there. Actually, my sister-in-law had it made in the shop in Farmington when my brother was living when he passed away, and I went and picked it up and took it down to Western and put it out there. We have a picture of that with me sitting on the bench.
We might be able to get that in the next. We'll see if we can pull that up.
And then I was sitting on the bench.
I got to sit on the bench. Yeah. I got to sit on the bench. Yeah, I didn't get to see the court though. I didn't get to go in.
No, because school was out and there was nobody there, and I couldn't find anybody to let us in the gym. But
no, the gym. It was a nice building to play in and stuff. But I can remember all those years when Drag was coaching there. We would fill it.
Yeah.
We would fill it.
It's seated about 2,500.
I think so. Yeah, I think about 20. Because all the little schools in the area, if they would have their district tournaments like the Cliff District or Lordsburg's, or they would use Western's gym to have their district tournaments in.
But people would flock in there, except behind the bench, and there are many years, but behind the bench, just special people sat behind the bench, because there was a few, when he would call timeout, people don't realize Drag loved the games, because he didn't mind showing off a little bit in a basketball game. Okay, there was some things that he would do during a game that were, he would scratch certain areas, and
his pants always got stuck in a certain spot, and he always had to pull it out.
And stuff, and he would scratch.
People come to sit there, didn't they, Sam?
Oh yeah.
They sat there just to see that one thing.
And then he would sit. They would, people would sit behind the bench, but every time we had a timeout, Drag, and I always did the same thing too. He'd have his players come and sit, and so he was facing the bleachers when he was talking to players. And during a timeout, if you needed a chewing, a little motivation, well, he was great, and he was great on motivation. But he would get in your face, and once in a while, you'd have the nice little old ladies would get up and leave from behind the bench, going, "Wow, he really gets on his kids a little bit," and stuff, And I'll tell you even better story than that. We were playing at Grand Canyon. Back before Grand Canyon had the big new stadium they got, and it was a cracker box gym, brick walls like this,
about 5 rows of bleachers.
Okay, and they were good. This is back when they had the national with Forrest and all them. Remember?
Yeah, Bayard Forrest and John. They had 2 brothers. Right. They had 3 Forrest brothers, but Bayard was the one that played in the NBA for Phoenix. Right.
And this is when we had Joe Mondragon. I think it was Joe Mondragon and stuff. And Joe was a little bit hurt with his knees, but anyway, the mayor of Silver City, Randall Ghost, him and his other buddy, they flew over there in a plane. Well, the bleachers are close. And little Joe was hurt. They didn't know that, but little Joe was hurt. So anyway, he's playing. Little Joe he couldn't make a layup because he couldn't get off his leg, and so he was playing. So Drag sat him down. All right, and so we're going along, and we're kind of getting kicked a little bit because Grand Canyon was real good, and so Joe's sitting on the bench. Well, the mayor of Silver City, Randall Ghost, which they were great and still are to this day, great supporters and stuff of the program. They were right behind the bench. And they were saying it loud enough to where they could hear, well, I don't know why they're talking to each other. I don't know why he doesn't get little Joe back in the ball game. We need little Joe back in the ball game. Drag had finally had enough of this, of hearing the mayor talk about who needs to be in the game. He calls timeout. He didn't even talk to the team, I'm sitting there waiting for him to talk. He talks to the mayor, The mayor's right behind the bench. He's told him, you can go get in your plane and get out of here and go home. I'm the coach. These are my players. I'll do what I want. That was the last time the mayor sat by. That was the last time he sat that close behind the bench. Oh, he still kept the point. He didn't get mad about it, but he realized, oops, I got into Drag's territory, and I shouldn't have done that. But Drag let him know that I'm doing the job. You just stay out of it. To this day, it was hilarious. And little Joe got back in the ball game, but he was towards the end of his career. He was having time. I'll tell you another Mondragon, since he's a Bernalillo guy. Mondragon, little Joe, he just couldn't jump off, couldn't make that layup. So one time, just to prove a point, and Joe, this is when he was a senior, Little Joe stole the ball top of the key, and I can't remember who we were playing, and he's going for a layup. And Drag had told him to quit shooting because Joe really wasn't a great outside shooter. But anyway, and Drag told him, just quit shooting.
Quick,
but your bad knees, you can't make a shot, just quit shooting. But he stole the ball. He's going for a layup. This is Joe, smart enough to think. Joe goes all the way down, and Drag is already getting ready to jump up and give it the old fist pump, count the 2. Joe goes under the basket, turns, come all the way back out, and sets up the offense. And Drag turns to everybody that's sitting on the bench, because I was helping coach at the time. He turns to the bench, and I can't say everything, but he turned to it and said, see, now that's what discipline does for you right there. He knows he's not supposed to shoot, and he was already counting the 2 points, and he didn't do it. But that's just a couple of stories about things in the game. And
that wasn't the 2 points to win the game in overtime.
We were way ahead.
I remember almost the same situation, only it was in the playoffs, and I went to see them play. I had nothing to do with anything except my brother was coaching, and Joe was in the same position, but this was at halftime, and Dick says, "We're taking the last shot. We're not shooting until there's under 3 seconds to go." And so Joe, it was something like Joe, he kind of stole the ball or something. He got it, and he went down and he shot it with about 10 seconds to go, and he missed. and I can't even remember who they were playing, but they came down and scored, and this was at a pivotal point of the game. And I know Dick walked in and I heard the garbage can flying because he kicked it and he put a hole in the garbage can. And boy, I never heard nothing. Then the door shut and I didn't go in the thing because I was just in the stands. But I know that happened with Joe when he shot it. He wasn't supposed to. And boy, that might have been before this one.
Well, it's kind of like Drag was like E.F. Hutton. When he talked, you listened. And if you didn't listen, you weren't going to be one of his players. I mean, you just didn't play for him. But when he talked, he knew what he's talking about, and you had to stay. You had to be focused. I mean, he was not going to put up with any. You didn't talk in a huddle or any of that other stuff. But when you got into a game, you were prepared because, like we were talking about, when in practice, you had to come to our practices and watch because they were disciplined. We got after it, and every day, and we'd beat each other up. But he taught you in practice how to play the game and stuff. And when we got to the games are fun because, man, we don't want to go back to practice. Games are fun. Let's go win another one.
Yeah, let's go.
But the times have changed a little bit. He's the head coach, but at that time he was a little bit of everything. I mean, he was, if I'm correct me if I'm wrong, he's the trainer, he's the bus driver, he was a van driver. We had two vans always, but that's something we'll get into too, that he coached like at Silver the first 13 years. And do you realize how many trips he had to make in those vans constantly into Colorado to Utah? I'll explain one of the flying trips we had. This is one, we had two flying trips. One was to Denver and one was to Salt Lake or Cedar City, whichever we played first or last. But we're driving, okay, from Silver City to Phoenix to get a plane. Okay, so that's a good 4.5 5
Yeah, we always
hour
had to drive to Phoenix to get on an airplane.
Yeah, so then we get to Phoenix, and depending on if we played Southern Utah or Westminster first. If we played Westminster first, we'd fly from Phoenix to Salt Lake, and then we'd rent vans. We'd play that game, we'd rent vans, and then we'd drive down to Cedar City, which is 250 miles away. And then after that game, then we would drive to Vegas. And our flight wouldn't leave till the next morning, but we didn't get rooms because it was
Doesn't he still hold the record at Cedar City for the most overtimes in a college?
There's another, that's a great story too. Yeah. I'll finish it right at the end of this one. So then, but then we go to Vegas. We wait. Our plane's leaving to go to Phoenix to pick up our vans and all that. So then we had to fly there, and then we get in our vans in Phoenix and drive back to Silver City, which is another. That's our flying trip. They say, and every team that came into Silver City, and Sam can vouch for this when he played and when he coached, that's all they do is complain about this. Oh, we hate to come to this. Is the worst trip and all that. And I tell them, would you guys just shut up? I said, every one of our trips is like that. Do you realize we have to go the other way?
The great thing about when people had to fly into Silver, you remember Drag had a sign to go out there and pick them up?
Yep.
We had. It wasn't really a fraternity. I forget what they were called, but I remember some of the guys, Bob Hoffman and guys. Well, they would go pick these teams up. Well, it was they'd go pick them up.
It was
a couple
like
of vans
16
and stuff.
miles.
The head coach would be in another car, and these other guys, they were they were young men. They were, hey, what's going on in Silver City tonight? You guys come on our. Well, they would always, go and probably have a couple before the next day's game and everything else. Drag had some good guys picking them up. It worked out. That's what you call home court advantage.
And of course, when you pick them up, it's out in Hurley. It's
right?
That is part of the home court advantage. And we didn't lose a ton of games in Silver City.
You came to Silver City, you're going to get your butt beat.
Yeah.
Plain and simple.
And then we were talking about, what was the other thing we were talking about before?
Oh, the referees.
The referee, yeah.
Oh, some of the referee issues he had.
Yeah.
Oh, he loved referees, didn't he?
Yes.
He had a few words for them. I'll tell you that one story about we're playing at Highlands. We're playing against them, and Gene Agnes. Some of the people out there might remember Gene Agnes from here in Albuquerque. He was a great referee, but he could think on his feet. And so anyway, we're at Highlands playing. Highlands steals the ball. They're going to the other end for a layup. Drag gets off the bench, reaches out. Okay, grabs him on the neck as he goes by, Gene Agnes, okay? And Drag had tried this before and it didn't work. I mean, and it worked. But with Gene, it did not work. He grabbed him on the neck. Gene doesn't blow his whistle. He lets the Highlands player go in, shoot the layup, okay, then turns, blows the whistle, gives Drag a technical, count the basket, now shoot the free throws, and they get the ball back. And Drag goes, dang, because Drag had done it before, and the referee blew the whistle then and stopped the layup. It's like playing defense. He just said, I'll trade a technical, because it was only one shot back then. One shot, and and then Malm will play D. But Gene Agnes said, no. We're going to count the basket. Now you got the tee. They shoot free throws, and you get the ball back. They get the ball back.
And that was like a Willie Kite, who is famous in the southern part of the state. The northerners don't like him, but he was he wanted to be part of the show. He wanted to be the show. Yeah. And he was very vocal and very animated and everything. And he was calling a game that my brother that's when he was at Alamogordo in high school. And Willie blows a whistle, and my brother says, Willie, you couldn't see that from where you were. He says, I heard it from over here. And my brother told him, oh, you're calling them by sound now.
Yeah, no.
Because you sure can't see.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember Willie Kite. Did he? I think he was still calling when you were playing.
Yeah, I do remember.
He didn't get to the eastern side. He used to go call the Hobbs tournament because Tasker loved him. But he was, he had his little antics that he did in the game. But one thing about him, he was a square shooter, and he did the little antics, but I always thought he was a pretty decent referee. We don't have characters like that.
He did too much, so he tried to coach your kids and their kids and everything. He wanted everything to do with the game.
Oh, he refereed when I was playing. I'd talk to him on the free throws and sit there and chit-chat.
He actually called that game where Hobbs scored. That one game was 158 to 120 something, and he said, well, we didn't call many fouls. And then I looked in the scorebook, and there was something like 65 fouls called. You had to stop the clock to score that many points. And so I showed him that. He says, well, it didn't seem like we called that many, but it was a good game. We scored a lot of points.
And and getting back to your travel a little bit, at Western, when you travel, I remember we were at Wayne State in Wayne, Nebraska. Drag took us there for a tournament, and we're going, is this during Christmas? There's nobody in school. We stayed in the dormitory. We're in Wayne, Nebraska. We don't even know where it's at. We go in snow and clouds. You can't see nothing. We come out in snow and clouds. We go in there, and we had a good. This one won conference. We had a good team. Willis Bellamy and Clark, Rodney Clark.
Your style on that.
Yeah.
We got that right there. Yeah.
But we roll in there. We're playing in this tournament, and we win it. We're staying in these dorms. There's nothing to do. There's the town. It's a one-horse town. The college is shut down. There's no one there. We're staying in a basement, okay? And anyway, we play the first game. We blow somebody. I can't even remember who we played. We blow somebody out, all right? And this is when I'm playing. And so anyway, we're looking around the dorm. We get into a closet. The closet's full of soft drinks, okay? Well, this is when you find out soft drinks are not. We're up playing cards all night long, okay, and down there with each other. And so, but we got free soft drinks. Drag doesn't know it. He's off at a motel or something. We're staying in a dorm. And so anyway, we're drinking soft drinks all night. Next day we're playing. We're out of gas. This is down at pretty much sea level. We're out of gas, and then after the game, we win the game, not as big as we should have, to get into the championship. And he's cussing us out after the game. What is wrong with you guys? You guys did what do you? Coach, we didn't do. We sat in the dorm and drank Cokes all night long. He said, what? He said, yeah, we drank Coke. Where'd you get Cokes? Sprite. Well, and then we all realized, oops. Well, there's a closet full of them. And then a few expletives and stuff. He said, okay, we had to go pay for all that stuff. But he said, you can't drink all that. We drank so many of them, our throats, we couldn't breathe. And the next day, so that's where I learned that, soft drinks and the carbonation, that's not good for your wind the next day. Then we get in the championship, we blow them out. But then after that, road trip again. After the game, we get in it. We drive straight through to Western because he wants us back for an 8 o'clock class because education was important to him. We had to be back that Monday for 8 o'clock classes for the guys that had 8 o'clock classes. We drive straight through in vans pulling the U-Haul. Okay, I can still see myself looking backwards. I never seen where we were going. Me and Pete Chalker in the back seat staring at a U-Haul trailer, or asleep. You learn how to sleep when you're at Western on the road. That's plain and simple. You guys at UNM and stuff, you're on a plane and a nice big fancy bus. Herrera buses or something. See?
Yeah, it was tough taking a bus down to Las Cruces.
Oh,
it was
we would have loved to have had a bus going to Las Cruces. We had cars.
The other thing, they used to play games on the trips with the 2 vans. So they would have bets where the lead van, and of course you had those one of the days when you had the CDs and CBs and all that, trucker and all this stuff.
Yeah.
Well, there was a thing, if the van in front could pull off and you not spot them off the road or not on the thing anymore or something like that, they had to buy Cokes for these guys or something like that. But in one time, I know, I wasn't on this trip, but the lead van, they pull into this gas station and they asked the guy to put them up on the thing and raise the van up so you couldn't see it from out. And them other guys went by and then they let it down. They come back behind them and beep the horn.
Well, that was one thing about drag. Game time, you're serious. Practice, you're serious. But when all that stuff was over with,
there's time to work.
You'd have a good time.
Fun.
You'd have a good time. On the road, it was always a good time.
And he liked them both equal. He liked fun and work.
Oh, yeah.
But there was a time for both. And
well, I remember one time, our worst road trip was when we we make the swing and play Fort Lewis, Western State, and Adams State. And that was almost a week long. But this is a week long in college.
It was like a Friday, Saturday, Monday or something.
Friday, and then the next day we play Western State on Saturday, and so we'd leave Thursday, drive up, and we always practice. That's the only time I've ever had a wreck in my life. That's when I rolled the van. I've got an All-American sitting next to me. I've got all the good players. They didn't want to be with drag in the car. No. He was no fun to ride with. So anyway, they're in there because I'll play their music and everything else. So I'm driving a van. We practiced at Aztec, got done. Sun's going down, deer jumping the road. I swear to miss and roll it. Luckily, there's snow. Carl Detweiler was pinned underneath. Richardson,
there
Louis.
Were some kids Louis that were hurt.
Louis was the guy going. I was
night.
the only guy. And Louis was the guy he went over there and pushed the van off of Detweiler, and he was fine. They all went, drag didn't even cancel the game. They went and played the next day. And, we totaled the van and everything else. Didn't hit a deer, didn't hit anybody else, because that's why I left the lane.
Yeah, and he told me they had guys wrapped, like it was the Confederate Army.
I thought you were going to hit the deer and we would have a deer story about food.
I come from the country where you don't want to hit something and have it come through the windshield. So I missed everything, and luckily there was snow in the ditch and rolled the van. I guess they said it rolled 5 times, but I've got the best players in my van. Nobody was hurt. Little Joe Mondragon, he was in the van, and this one I was coaching, and so little Joe, he was left sitting on the road, staring at the van rolling away and wondering what was going on, and so anyway, but drag plays the next day. I was the only one that had to come home because I tore up my ribs because I didn't let go of the steering wheel. So,
you brought up the word RMAC, and that's what we're really talking about. And
these are all RMAC road trips.
This is some of the reasons why he got in the Hall of Fame there, because he was a Hall of Fame coach. And if there's one thing he could do better than coach, it was drive. Because he'd come to see me from Silver City to Albuquerque, and he'd be here in 3 hours and 45 minutes, and I bet he had his eyes closed going over the Black Range because he drove that so many times.
I know. In the RMAC, I mean, and I think it's a great conference, but they hate it.
Well, it's a tough. I opened my eyes. When Joe Harge was coaching the Highlands, I went and watched some games, and then over the years I've been watching that conference, and I watched Western, and those teams are they're
look at the time of the year that you're traveling, right in the middle of winter time.
Yeah,
and stuff.
January and February.
And the thing is, I mean, Highlands, that's not even bad because you're closer.
That's our closest.
But Western, I mean, you're still nowhere.
Well, this shows you how great a coach. Where I'm going with it, it was because I took. I'm a native New Mexican. Okay. 2 years ago, Tom took me down to Western. I never drove.
He'd never been to Silver City.
I'd never been there, and we drove it. And I was like, I'm telling people right now, if you haven't drove that, that's unbelievable.
The northern people don't know how beautiful it is. Going over the Black Range in the Gila National Forest. I mean, there's some beautiful land there.
Yeah, no, but see, we would go on the road and he could win on the road. We won. I mean, and these weren't easy trips.
That's his philosophy, to be in the game at the end of the game where you have a chance to win, and
he would outcoach most people in game situations. Drag was a great game coach. He He could do things in the game that would win games for you. That's what I learned from him, my coaching technique. I mean, he was there for my very first, and I was coaching JV at Goddard. The very first game I coached, I look up, and here comes the whole Western team in the gym.
That's when I was.
They
that
walk
was
in
the
and
year
sit
I was
behind my
helping.
bench.
That's the year I helped him, I think, Sam, because we stopped
Gary
there.
Chapman was playing. Right. And stuff, and they came in and sat behind my bench, and that's just what I needed. My first game.
His first game as a
he's
coach.
going to sit there and critique me.
I remember
but he
that.
always critiqued me. I'd call him up and do things, and he'd tell me, and he was a very honest person with you, when it comes to basketball and stuff, and he'd tell you exactly, it ain't your fault. You got to have players.
I guess my best memory of Dick is he had a way of making you feel good. I mean, no matter. I mean, it was like, and I didn't. Like I said, Tom will attest to this. I probably talked to him 10 times in my life, maybe 10 or 12 times, maybe at the most. But you would think I was his best friend when he'd walk in. It would be like, hey, Steve, what's going on? And he wanted to know about my life and everything. And I'm kind of like, what did I do to get his respect to do that?
Well, you know what? In the old days, when he was around the New Mexico Coaches Clinic, when he was at Western, he used to come up here and put on a hospitality room. This is why in the old days.
They still talk about the hospitality.
Oh, they do. Oh, without a doubt. And it was a week long. I mean, but every coach. And Drag was good with not just basketball. Drag's biggest buddies were football coaches. We all got along. Football, basketball, and he would hang out. Clem Mancini, the head football coach, every time I'd go back to Silver and visit and stuff, well, this Drag and Clem, we're going places. You come to coach a clinic, they put on the hospitality. Half of the room was full of football coaches, talking basketball. And Drag would always make fun of them guys, saying, you guys are just beating your heads together for no reason, stuff like that, and said, you need to do some basketball stuff.
Well, or I figured he'd say something about the weather. We're in 72 degrees weather.
Right, exactly.
we don't have to worry about it.
That's what he said about Adams State. He said, somebody asked him, why are you coaching basketball in Adams State? He says, it's where everybody in town goes in the gym. It's 20 below zero outside. They're coming in the gym.
Right. But, I mean, he used to get along with everybody like that. And like I said, the New Mexico Coaches Clinic for years, all the coaches came back, northern coaches, southern coaches, you're all together in the evenings in Drags,
and how many
motel room. And
how many coaches would go to Western and to get their masters and stuff that he would help out in
that's
the
the
summer.
other thing that he produced. I mean, people don't realize Western New Mexico University used to be the school where you went to go find a coach, and if Drag called you and says, I've got a kid that can coach, you need to hire this guy. That's how I got my job. I'm sorry, I never applied for a job. They called Drag, and Drag says, here, Sam needs a job, and he'll do a job for you. And I never applied for a job my whole life. Never. And they're all mainly, and it was all just because of him.
Just because of one phone call.
One phone call, and that's it. I only had 2 jobs there at Goddard and Hot Springs High School, and Drag was basically, they called Drag and says, here, and then they called Drag again and says, well, Sam's coaching at Goddard, you need to get him for the head coach at Hot Springs, and took us years to get the program going, but we finally got it going. But all of that, it goes back to him. That's why he's in the Hall of Fame. Stuff like that, people don't realize that he did.
The one thing I note about him is that you can talk to any football player from Western that ever went to Western on football. He got treated better by my brother. My brother always had Gatorade for him. He'd always have socks if they didn't have them. Yep. And he'd fix up the football field. That was part of the basketball players'
work-study program.
Work-study, yeah. Because they would have to line it and do it. And he did so much extra for the football and everybody, baseball. And nobody, you talked about, that Sam was talking about grades meant something. Well, my brother, no one ever, we didn't put it on here, but when he was a senior, he got the outstanding academic student for Western New Mexico. He was the highest GPA of anybody that graduated that year that played sports.
Hey, we got to put up a little. We're running out of time, if you can believe this, guys. But let's put up a little. That we have one last thing here, and read that out there for me, Tom.
Okay, and then of course these are some of the awards he got. The Hall of Fame and induction banquet is this one coming up. Is July 13th, and it's in Colorado Springs at the Marriott. I already have my reservations, and I'm sure they'll have things set up, and. You can even look online at the Rocky Mountain Athletic Conference, and they'll have a thing that'll print out when the banquet's going to, I think it starts at 5. They have like a no-host bar from 5 to 6, and then at 6 they'll have the awards and the dinner. And It's in Colorado Springs, and it says you can call me or Sam. Our numbers are up there if you need any contact, because I printed out the thing, and then I'm in contact with them, and they didn't have a price or anything on the one I saw, so I'll find that out. So if you have an interest, if you either played for them or against them or want to go, I know we already have, I know
I'm
about
going.
10 or
Me and the
15
wife are
people
going.
that are going, so it'll be a good time. Plus you'll get to see me and Sam. What more could you ask for?
Well, guys, we got to call it an end, and hey, thanks, Sam.
Steve, this was great.
And also
Great.
Tom, appreciate it.
My pleasure, buddy.
Played for a great man.
Yep.